Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's episode 2 with Niche Website Builders. I can never get the hand right, Adam. I always end up pointing that way, but it's above your head. With Niche Website Builders. You can check the link below if you're interested in any of the services that Niche Website Builders do, but we have Adam Smith, who I'm sure many of you know. He's been kicking around for a while now, and Adam is going to give us a bit of a presentation on some of the stuff he's working on. And like Mark said last week, they both have very different thought processes, maybe, in terms of how they do what they do. So it'll be interesting to see what you've got, Adam. So great to have you with us. We have people in here already. Casual Programming, Maeve, Mark is even here. Mark, we were just talking about you off air. Dirk, Paul Hogden. But I just want to clarify one thing, Adam. This, because people have DM'd me after speaking to Mark last week around about the figure that Mark says that office cost you guys. So Mark got it wrong. It wasn't £35 a month. It was actually 40 a month.
Not a week. I think it's cheap because it's part of like the local council incubator program. So, I mean, you're only meant to stay here for 12 months. We've been here for almost 3 years now. But it's kind of meant to like kickstart business. Really, really cheap. An office space you can have really cheap to like get off the ground. But we were just able to keep the office, and for 40 quid a month, I can't see us ever giving it up, to be honest. But this is said office; it's a real office. Like I'm actually here in the actual office.
It's and it looks like a decent size. Certainly, I've never seen an office at that price of that size before. You know, I wasn't sure what to expect, but it looks decent. To be fair,
yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. And also, just to clear up another thing, I think on the call with Mark, you were on about. Did we meet via your podcast? Mm-hmm. And I'm 95% sure it was when I was on your podcast. That's the one Mark listened to. That's the one I told everyone. It's a great podcast, so I'm just going with it now.
Yeah, I'm running with that story. I don't care whether it was or not. Yeah. I'm running with that story. No, but it's quite a cool story. If we done that podcast, it was probably start of COVID, and then you guys have somehow built a business, 150 plus team, and off the back of like just a shitty little podcast is amazing.
Mate, I'm waiting for the day you send us your finder's fee invoice of like 10% of the business or something. Like I know that's coming someday.
Sponsorship will do, mate. Listen, I'm all for helping, whether it be through a podcast or whatever, to help other good people grow. So I'm glad I can tell that story, and 95% of it's true.
Just on that note as well, like I'm really grateful for the opportunity to partner up with you. Like me and you have known each other offline for a couple of years now, and we've always said, "Oh, it'd be cool to do something together." And now we get the opportunity to do something like this. It's just awesome. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, no, listen, I think you're doing great stuff, and it aligns very well with what I do and obviously what my audience wants to try and achieve. So had great feedback from your show, Mark. If you're listening last week, people loved it. This week, Adam's going to go for a similar thing, presentation type thing, talking through a little bit of a case study and a few other bits and bobs. We will be answering questions as well, so put your questions over in the live chat. Doesn't matter how stupid it is. Any question is good when it comes to this stuff, because we all can't be experts in building niche websites. That's the dream. But Adam, if you want to just crack on with your presentation.
Yeah, sure. I guess just to set the scene a little bit, Mark introduced it last week, and I guess it's kind of like build versus buy, and there's no right or wrong way in doing it. There's just different kind of like different thought processes and different methodologies for making money in the space that we're in. And Mark's very much a build kind of guy. He's built websites. He hasn't got a ton of experience of buying and kind of selling sites, whereas I've built a couple of sites more recently, but most of my experience and background has come from buying sites, doing them up, improving them, and then flipping them, sometimes in really short time periods and sometimes a little bit longer. And I'm going to show you a case study of one today, which I plan on holding for at least a year, which for me is kind of like a longer time frame. But I guess the presentation I've got to show today is almost my case, pros and cons for buy-in rather than building a website from scratch. And then just run us through a case study, just a quick case study of the site that I bought back in April, the exact steps of what I've done to it so far. And I'm sure there'll be loads of questions off the back of that, because it's like how I increase the site speed and how I've added new content and the keyword research methodology behind that. And then the plan as terms of like what I plan to do with that site and when I want to flip it, and the reasons why, kind of my mentality around why I'm not going to flip it straight away. So yeah, let me share my screen and go from there. Present. Right. Hopefully you can see this. If I do a presentation, can you see this now?
Yep.
Sweet. Awesome. So yeah, buy versus build part 2, and it's why I like to buy and flip. So just covering off like some of the quick bases first and foremost is like some of the pros on why I like to buy and why I like to flip them. And I mean, the first one for me is that you can move really quickly with a flip. When you start building a website from scratch, even when you're working with age domains, like there's a time period where it takes things to get going. Like there's the Google sandbox period, and then it's a ramp up period. So, you know, you can invest a lot of time and effort and money and all kinds of stuff up front when you build a website. And then it's quite a long runway really before you start seeing progress and start seeing traffic and revenue typically. But with a website, or when you buy a website, that happens a lot quicker because you're already buying something that's established. When you add new content or you do link building, you typically see results quite a bit quicker. So for me, that's one of the big things is speed. There's potential for big returns fast. I mean, I could talk about potential for big losses fast as well. I've got quite a few sites that I've bought been hit in a Google update a couple of weeks later. So there's potential for both big returns and sometimes failures quite fast. But as long as the big returns outpace the failures, you know, it's still a really good business model. And then you get to pick or you get to look at a site that's already proven. As beginners, one of the main things that we see people asking questions about is, you know, what niche should I go into? What sub niche should I go into? How do I do that research around niches? But if you already buy a website that's making money and is already established, you don't have that problem of trying to pick a niche. Like it's already been decided, and you can already see that it's got traction. And if the site that you buy in, they use different types of affiliate programs, etc. Like you can already see, you don't have to do any of that kind of research. And then another pro that I like is instant cash flow. So again, unlike with a website where you build it from day one, you don't see that cash flow straight away when you build. Like it takes time and effort to get that. When you buy a website, obviously you put a big chunk of money up front to buy it, but you get instant cash flow from day one. And then you can either use that cash flow to reinvest and to grow the business, to grow the website, or you can treat it almost like as a dividend. You can take that cash back out to the business and start repaying what you've paid for it. Another big one, which I don't really see tons of people talk about, is on buying a website, is you can actually, you can buy access to an ad network. So for example, Mediavine, they have a 50,000 session minimum per month. If you buy a website that's got 50,000 sessions, you get access to Mediavine. And then if you become a part of Mediavine Pro, you can then bring in all of your other sites at a 25,000 session level. And I mean, it's kind of regarded that moving from AdSense or Ezoic up to Mediavine typically increases your monthly revenue. So if you've got a ton of websites on AdSense or Ezoic and they're at 25,000, but they're not quite at 50,000, if you buy a website that's in Mediavine already, you open up those sites to Mediavine essentially. And then this is probably the biggest one of people just starting out. These don't have to be big sites, but essentially you get to see the inside workings of a successful site. You get to see what's going on with the site. You get to see what kind of content they've written. You get to see how they've structured the website, how they've set it up. You know, what does their about this page look like? You get to see basically everything inside of a successful site. So Any pros that I've missed? You've done a bit of buying and selling, Craig, right?
Yeah, I regularly buy in websites.
Anything on there that I've missed out, or anything you think is important about like the pros of buying?
Nothing in particular that I think you've missed out. I think I think the pros of buying are fairly self-explanatory. The way I always say it to people is SEOs are lazy, and we want a head start. So why wouldn't we want to buy something? Apologies for that noise. I've got someone doing work in the roof. But so the pros and cons. I'm more on your side rather than on Mark side. Building from scratch. But I totally get it. From Mark's point of view, if you want to build a brand, you can't do that. In particular, particularly when you're buying a website, you're stuck with what's there. I think that's a good way to think about it as well. But as I say, we're all lazy. We want a bit of a head start. We want content to work with. So that's why I love, basically taking advantage of some poor bastard who doesn't understand SEO properly. I go in, scale it up, flip it, on you go. Or if someone's maybe balls it up and they've been hit with some form of update, I like coming in and trying to recover it or whatever. So I think you've covered it quite well.
Oh, you mentioned that. I always remember the first website I ever sold. Like I sold it way too early, and the guy got a proper deal. Like I felt almost taken advantage of, to be honest. It was my first website. I bought it from Empire Flippers. I'd done a ton of work, and it was on a really fast upward trajectory. And the guy was doing like manual outreach. It wasn't listed for sale anywhere. He was just searching on Google and reaching out to websites that he wanted to buy. And he offered me, it was a significant chunk of money back then. He offered me $59,000 or $60,000. We agreed on 59, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is more than I make a year at my day job. And instantly I was just like, yeah, sell it straight away without even doing any kind of research. And then the guy's quite well known in this space, and I didn't realize I was selling to him. He was using like a pseudonym until a little while later. And I remember reaching out and saying, hey, I'm sure I sold my site to you. And he said, yeah, I did. And I held it for 3 months and I sold it for 90,000. Like he just saw that it was going up, saw that I was a little bit green, bought it, held it for 3 months, and then flipped it back on and did nothing to it. So yeah, you can find those, I think, with buy-in. Not always, but there are opportunities like that out there, I guess.
100%. There's so many of them out there. Smart way of working, if you ask me. But hey,
yeah, I know, right? But I guess there are cons as well. Like, so I want to be balanced. There's definitely cons of buy-in. So there's high risk, and I think high risk can be mitigated by having a very clearly defined investment strategy, like only going after sites that meet a certain criteria or a certain size or whatever. And I mean, the times when I've been burnt the most is when I deviate away from my kind of like investment plan. I remember one, which is probably the clearest one that sticks in my mind, was this website. About 2 years ago, I flipped my whole portfolio around from being affiliate driven to being reliant on display ads. So I went from being like 80% reliant on affiliate programs, mainly Amazon affiliate program, to being 80% reliant on display ads. And I did that for a reason. I know I could see that Google would change some of the ways that they looked at affiliate types websites, and I just saw I thought there was a better opportunity with display ads. But during that time, there was a website that came up for sale. It was almost 100%, or it was 100% Amazon affiliate income. And I thought, this is great. The site's on a bit of an upward trajectory. That's great. I can buy it. I can put on display ads, and I can hold it for 3 to 6 months, and I can flip it. No risk, nice, easy way to make a bit of money. But it was outside of my investment thesis, because I wasn't buying, or I wasn't looking to get into websites that are just almost all affiliate income. And I bought it, and lo and behold, about 5 weeks later, a Google update came out and the site dropped like 80%. I was like, oh, great, this is awesome. So there's definitely risks, but I think you can mitigate that risk by having like a very clearly defined strategy. Yeah. The next one might be a bit surprising. ROIs can be smaller. Obviously, they can be smaller. But what we looked at when me and Mark kind of started looking at building versus buying, is we looked at what Mark's average return was when he was building websites versus my average return on buying them, doing a bit of work and flipping them. And his average return was much higher overall, like in terms of actual percentage wise on each website.
Yeah.
The difference being it took him a long time to get to the higher percentage, and I could flip maybe 3 or 4 websites for a smaller percentage during that time. So I guess absolute ROI was probably about similar, but in terms of individual ROI on individual projects, building seemed to be a much higher ROI just on the face of it. Some of the other cons of buy-in, I mean, due diligence can be massively overwhelming for newcomers. Like, there's so many people out there selling rubbish, like absolute rubbish websites. I see them all the time. And unless you know how to spot that and do your due diligence and look at, does it have a good backlink profile? Is the content good? Like, is this at risk potentially of being hit in the next Google update because there's glaring obvious issues with the website? If you can't diagnose that, or you can't do due diligence, then this becomes a really high risk strategy. It almost becomes like a lottery. You buy in a website hoping that nothing happens to it because you can't do your due diligence on it. And then the bottom two then, and just quickly cover these off. Content and link strategy may not be to your own standards. So, the content may not be super high quality, may not be native English, for example. And you can turn this into a positive. You could look at that and say, well, that's awesome. That's a disadvantage. I'm going to go away and I'm going to rewrite the content to a higher standard. Like, you could turn these into opportunities, but there's definitely cons. Like, they could have used a PBN that you might not see, or they could have used some kind of link strategy which you're not familiar with or you're not aware of, and that might cause you problems down the line. And then this other one then is image license concerns. Lots of people have lots of people talk about image license around, do you know the chain of kind of where your images come from, and is there any potential down the line that someone could come to you and say, hey, that image is mine, and you've used it without a license, and you end up in a bit of trouble. So again, that could be another positive. You could turn that around and say, well, I've got an account to Shutterstock and I'm going to replace all the images, and then I've got a site where I'm comfortable and confident where I know all the images come from. But they're just some of the cons I can think of on buy-in. Any cons you can think of that I've not got there, Craig?
Not really. I think the like, you've covered it pretty well. I think I can't even think of anything else that you could add to that. My concern, when I'm trying to educate people into getting into this market, is being able to identify, like the update where all the affiliate websites were hit because they all had the best this, the best that, all the commercialized content. I think for me, these are things that you can't preempt. No one knew that was around the corner from Google.
No.
It's not until after that happens and you look at it. So I think, these are things that only experienced people would understand and know what to look for in this day and age. And I think, trying to do that due diligence, I think you should also be speaking to other people in the industry that have done it. Just jump in a call, hop it, whatever. Because everyone's always got a little bit of an angle to tell you, or a con on buying websites. But like you say, the biggest thing for me is people selling dog shit stuff that's propped up in a PBN, or the content's working for now. It's all garbage or whatever. So these are the most important things, I think.
Oh, and honestly, it's heartbreaking. We've had some clients that have bought websites like that in the past, and one always sticks in my mind was a lady that bought a website. I don't know if it was through a marketplace or not, but she bought it based on the revenue from guest posts. People pay in guest posts, and I guess I don't know if people are aware of this, but like when I buy a website, I pretty much discount all guest post revenue. Like because it's really hard to verify, and like, do you even want guest posts on the website? But anyway, she was really new to the game, and someone sold her this website based on, it was thousands, like a couple of $1,000 a month of guest post revenue. She paid for the website, she took ownership, and then there's no guest posts. Nobody's asking for guest posts, and she's left with a website that was getting not a ton of organic traffic, and she didn't really have any way to monetize it. She could put ads on there, but Like she thought she was buying a site that would just continue generating thousands a month in guest posts, but they were clearly just a scam. Like the site probably was never getting that. And it's really sad. Like I hate, that's the one thing I hate about the industry is there's people selling shit like that. It's terrible.
It's one of those things though. If you did own a website like that, it's you who sells the link on it. So even if you were to put the website on, it's not as if loads of people are going to be batting your door down. They'd still be trying to Adam Smith, what sites
exactly.
So the guest post revenue is coming through that person, and that's not for sale. That's not what's been sold there. So a bit naughty, that one.
Yeah. Just apologize as well. I've got a stinking cold, so and I can't mute while I'm sharing my screen to have a little cough. So I just cough away from the microphone. So some of the requirements for buy-in, obviously you need capital. Like you can't buy websites unless you've got the money. And valuations have only gone up in the past couple of years. I remember going back 3-4 years ago, I was paying 25x for 25 times the monthly revenue for websites. Now, I mean, I just sold a website recently for 43 times the monthly revenue. Like the amount of capital you need has kind of gone up over the last couple of years. But again, for me, I see that as also it's like a good thing, because when you come to sell the website, you can also sell it for more then. So you're paying more and you've got to sell it, you can sell it for more. When you buy in a website, like you've got to be really happy with the risk involved. You know, like I said, I bought that website and 5 weeks later, it's worth 80% less than what I bought it for. Like, I'm comfortable with that. I've been doing this for a long time, but I can imagine if that was your first website and you bought it and 5 weeks later it dropped down like that, like unless you were comfortable with the risk, you'd be thinking, well, what have I done? Like, what's going on here? And then you've also got to have the skill set or team to help you do the due diligence and the technical improvements. And then this bottom one I think is really important, is like you need good deal flow. If you're going to be buying websites as a strategy, you can't rely on websites coming up for sale in the Facebook groups or on the public marketplaces. You've got to do networking. You've got to get in with essentially serial website flippers or serial website builders who are always buying, building, and selling websites. And you basically got to make your own deal flow. I mean, now and again, there are sites that come up. I've bought sites from Facebook groups, and I bought sites off Empire Flippers and Investors Club and all those different kinds of platforms. But really, for me, the best ones that I've bought and I've made the most money on tend to come from private deal flow. So if you're thinking seriously about doing buy-in as a strategy, you need to start. I guess the saying is your network is your wealth, right? You need to start networking and getting familiar with those people and just putting yourself out there that you're open to buying good quality websites.
Can I ask one question on that?
Yeah.
You obviously mentioned previously it was 25%. Now you can sell it for 43 times your revenue. When you're buying from these kind of private guys, is it still the same kind of multiples, or are you finding that get it for a little bit less?
Yeah, you can get it for a little bit less, I think, for a couple of reasons, especially if you've worked with someone in the past, is that there's trust involved. They know they're not going to get messed around. They know usually that you can close the deal in like a short period of time. I went to put a website up for sale with Investors Club a couple of months back, and like the time from submitting the application to going live on the website, they said, was around 8 weeks. Like, nobody wants to wait 8 weeks when you want to sell a website. So people will sell a website for less if you can, especially if they know you've done a deal in the past, if you can close quick. Also, you're not in like this bidding war. I mean, I've been in situations in the past where like I'm talking to someone, they said, oh yeah, I've got another person that's interested because it's on a marketplace, but they want to pay a little bit more. Are you willing to come up to it? And I'm just like, no, like, I don't want to be involved in that stuff. But if it's private deal flow coming in, typically don't have that rubbish. So yeah, usually you can buy it for a little bit less through, like, if you've got private deal flow.
And one other little question.
Yeah.
You guys don't do anything like that on the side, do you? Like, if I've got someone who says, dude, I want to fucking invest in something, if you guys get somewhere like a couple of wee websites that people can come to you and say, what the hell have you got? I know you've not got an official marketplace that I'm aware of.
Yeah. What I'll say is not yet, but potentially something the start of next year.
Because I was going to do that a few years back, make a marketplace for buying and selling websites, and I had the website set up and all that kind of stuff, and I was going to do it with two other guys who were going to run that side of it, and then we kind of fell out and it never got off the ground. But I think it's a gap in the market because, like you say, you can go to investor club or whatever, you can go to the Facebook groups.
Yeah,
a lot of rules and all this other kind of politics shit. I just want a place that fucking lists a genuine website that's had some form of due diligence. Empire Flippers, obviously, you have to meet a certain criteria. That's the elite place to go, but I certainly think there's a gap in the market for something like that. So good luck if you're doing it. We can send people that we know. It's all the time, dude. I get people asking me, do you know anyone with anything for sale? And I'm like, what are you wanting to spend and whatnot? But nowhere to send them. But Adam, someone's saying, enjoying the chat. Are the slides supposed to be updating? It's still showing slide 1. It actually is showing slide 1.
How do I?
Just that's moving now. Yeah.
So I was sharing my my screen. So I guess just a quick one. This is the pros and cons, just in case you want to watch this back. This is the pros. This is the cons. This is the requirements, basically.
Cool.
Definitely. I definitely think there's a gap in the market there, Craig, like you say. And for people that want maybe the quality of Empire Flipper sites, but don't have or don't want to be at that high 6-7 figure kind of valuation range. I think the only ones that kind of marked into that now are, like, say, Investors Club or Motion Invest. And I mean, I've seen some beauties for sale on Motion Invest over the last couple of months. I saw one website which was like I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but it was like maybe a site about home decor built on an age domain that used to be about sharks. Like, how long is that going to last for? I don't know. Clearly, no one was doing any kind of due diligence on that before it went live. But yeah, so I guess that's my pros and cons and requirements for buy-in. And I thought it'd be cool just to spend, maybe the next 20 minutes talking through an actual real life case study that's still ongoing. I haven't sold it yet. I bought the website in April 2022, so 7 months ago, through private deal flow. This wasn't for sale on the networks or on the marketplace or anything. I actually bought the site from him a couple of months prior, and that was the first site I bought. And he just reached out and said, "Hey, I've got another website for sale. Are you interested?" And this is the site. And basically what I'm going to show here is how I bought it for. It cost me 71,000, and now it's worth 115 if we use the same multiplier, and how it's generated 17,000 in revenue since owning it as well. And then crucially, like, why I'm not selling it yet. I could sell it now, but why I'm not. So this is like the case study overview. I bought it, like I say, for private deal flow in April, and then I did a couple of different things in order to. I've done about 1 to 2 weeks actual worth of hands-on work on the website, and that has been me increasing the website speed, optimizing for display adverts, so it's almost 100% monetized with display adverts. And I've started adding new content. So far, I've added 110,000 words, which is about 53 pieces of content, I think, and how I'm going to continue scaling it for an exit next year now, not this year. So buying the website, this is how the numbers stacked up. So like I say, this wasn't on a marketplace or anything. Someone reached out, they shared these details via email, and it was making roughly around $2,000 a month. There was a big spike in October there. You can see the October revenue was $4,500. The site actually went a bit mad with Google Discover traffic. Have you had any experience with Google Discovery traffic, Craig?
Yeah, but I've never had a spike like that, put it that way. I've had a little bit, but nothing to that extent. But I know it's good traffic.
Yeah, ever since I've been trying to replicate it, but there's no guides out there on how to properly optimize for Google Discover. Like I don't even know if there's a way you can. I don't even know how you do it. It almost feels like everything I've read and seen and people I've spoke to feels like luck if Google Discover picks up your website. And then it's almost like, how long does that spike last? And then it's going to go to zero again at some point, it feels. So when we were doing the negotiation, I tried to negotiate that we didn't include that October revenue in the monthly average, but what we ended up doing is including it, so the average come to just over 2,000. But we negotiated down on the multiple. So initially, he was asking for, I think, a 37 times multiple, and we negotiated down to the 34. So I guess that's kind of answers your question, Craig, on a little bit. This was a private deal flow. I bought it for a 34. I've just sold another website. I guess that was privately, but I got just over a 40x multiple on that. So you can't. I don't know if that answers kind of your question about multiples. They're all different, I guess. It depends on the deal. So this is what I did about increasing site speed, and I know this is quite small on your screen now, Craig. So I'll cover them off. It's my 7-step process, and you can apply this to any website you've got. And there's almost always guarantees that you can pass Web Core Vitals, like almost always. I've come across very few sites, even with display ads on there, you can still pass. So first thing is good hosting. For my own personal websites, I use WPX. I've always used them. I find them great hosting. They're kind of like a managed hosting solution. So if I've got any trouble with a website or something happens, I can literally just go to the support chat and say, hey, website's down, what's going on? And they'll fix it for me pretty much. But for niche website builders, we use Cloudways and DigitalOcean, which is a really great, fast server, but it's not managed. You have to diagnose stuff yourself. It's cheaper, but you have to do that. So for me, my recommendations for hosting are WPX or Cloudways, DigitalOcean with like a 4 gig RAM server. The next thing is to use a fast theme. So in this case, the site was already using GeneratePress, so I didn't really have to change the theme. And we recommend typically Astra or GeneratePress. The free versions are totally fine. And we say those two themes because they are really fast out of the box. They're lightweight. They don't have like a ton of bloat. They don't have all kinds of fancy stuff. I mean, if you go on Theme Forest and look at some of the themes on there, they look really pretty, but so much bloat on them. Like they're just incredibly slow out of the box, whereas Astra and GeneratePress are really lightweight. And then the other good thing about these two themes is they're really well supported. Like if you have any issues or something goes wrong with it, even on the free version, if you Google the problem, there's almost always someone out there that's had the same problem because it's so popular and so supported, and you can kind of get a fix that way. So I like those two themes. This case, it was already GeneratePress, so I didn't actually have to change the theme over to anything. The next one is optimizing the logo. And I don't know if Google changed something recently, because you used to be able to pass Web Core Vitals without really optimizing the logo, especially on mobile. But over the last, I'd say, couple of months, I've seen that it's really hard to pass without an optimized logo. And it's really easy to do. I think most people, when they upload a logo, they upload the full size image, like a couple of 100 pixels or maybe even a couple of 1,000 pixels wide. But just take that image, resize it to 200 pixels by 100 or so pixels, and then use a free website called imagecompressor.com to compress the image. And I mean, you can get your logo image down to like 1 to 2 kilobytes, like tiny. And that was one of the things which helped this website pass Web Core Vitals. I did all the other steps first, and I still couldn't get it to pass. And then I realized it was the logo which was causing the LCP issue. If you've ever looked at your Web Core Vitals, LCP is largest contentful print. It's like the largest asset that loads above the fold, and on mobile it's almost always the logo. So that's a really cool tip. The next one was removing featured images, and what I mean by this is not actually going in and deleting them. I mean just removing them from within the theme option, so the theme doesn't show the featured image. And most themes have the option to do this. I know Astra and GeneratePress is just an option in the back end if you go into the settings. And again, the main reason for this is because lots of sites fail Web Core Vitals because of that LCP issue, the largest contentful print. And if it's not the logo that's the largest asset above the fold, then it's almost always the featured image. And you can do everything you want to try and optimize that image, but it's really hard to pass with those images on. So we find just remove them, go in and add the featured image manually into the blog post, a couple of paragraphs down. So when you look at the post on mobile, the featured image isn't above the fold, essentially. And I've seen loads and loads of sites, loads of sites over my time, which that one simple thing of removing that featured image means they can pass Web Core Vitals. The next thing was optimize all images. I mean, when you're building a website, you tend to kind of optimize the images as you go if you're building from scratch. But when you buy a website, you have no idea if the old owner optimized anything. And one of the best plugins for checking that is EWWW Image Optimizer. It's a free plugin. And it does two things. One is it bulk kind of like compresses the images. But the other good thing you can set it to do is you can set it to select the maximum pixel size for each image. So if the previous owner accidentally uploaded an image that was 5,000 by 5,000 pixels, I mean, most browsers can only show like 2,000 or 1,820, I think, wide. Most themes are 1,820 wide. There's no way you want an image which is 5,000 pixels wide. So with this, you can set like a maximum image size, and it'll go through all the images, it'll resize them, and that means you'll never have images which are too big. The sixth one on here is if you've run your website through Google PageSpeed tools and it tells you that you need to combine and minify your CSS and JSS. If you're not technical, like I have no idea how you would do this from a manual perspective. There's another free plugin which I use, which is awesome. It's called Asset Cleanup, PageSpeed Booster. Bit of a mouthful, but essentially you can just tick the box to say minify CSS and minify the JS files. One thing I would always recommend on that, though, is that you back up the website before you do it, because you can cause some themes and some websites to look a bit weird if you minify these files. So back up the website, do them one at a time, clear the cache, make sure everything looks fine before you minify the others. But that one's really good and kind of like a beginner's technical fix. You don't have to have any technical knowledge, just tick the box. Number 7 is lazy load videos. So one of the things we always do, and when I buy a website, one of the things I always go back and add, if they don't have them, is add a video at the end of each article. And it's just a YouTube video. I don't make videos. I'm not creating them. I'm going and I'm finding relevant or related YouTube videos and I'm adding them to the page, embedding them. And it's a bit of an oxymoron because it's a YouTube product that you're embedding. So you're embedding a YouTube video and you're using the click on share on YouTube, click on embed and getting the code and pasting in. But it's almost impossible to pass Web Core Vitals with that in place like that because of the scripts that those YouTube videos call. So a free plugin called Lazy Load Videos, it basically doesn't load those scripts until you click play on the video. And I've realized it says 7-step process, but I've got 8 steps in here. So number 8 is use a caching plugin. Of everything I've mentioned, this is the only paid plugin that I used for this website, or that I typically would use, and that's WP Rocket. I say typically use it. I've only ever used it for this website, the paid version. And honestly, I saw someone's LinkedIn post that said, use the paid version WP Rocket. You don't have to change any settings, and you can get green and Web Core Vitals. And that's what I did. I mean, it's pretty cheap. It's $49 a year. I didn't get into the guts of changing any settings or anything on that. I just installed it as was. And that's kind of the steps I took to improve the load speed of the site. And just a pro tip at the bottom there, like once you've implemented these changes, don't expect to see Web Core Vitals in your Google's Search Console dashboard to instantly turn green. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but that Web Core Vitals in your Search Console dashboard is the average of the last 28 days. So you won't see those changes in there for around 4 weeks. So you can do all these changes, use Google PageSpeed testing tool to make sure that you are passing, and then come back in a couple of weeks and check in Search Console to see if the changes you've done result in green Web Core Vitals in Search Console. Any questions come up on that one, Craig?
Not so far from the audience. I think the audience are probably waiting to the end, but I can vouch for I use WPX hosting, never had a problem.
Yeah.
I've used WP Rocket. I think it's an amazing plugin. I also think I use EWWW as well. So I think a lot of those tips are solid there.
Do you ever change any of the settings in WP Rocket, or you just put it on and leave it to his thing?
I would be lying to say that I was doing anything fancy there. So
good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, and I felt it was appropriate, and most of it was the kind of preset recommendations and off we pop. So I used to use WP Fastest Cache before that. Okay. WP Rocket in recent years has worked very, very well for me.
Cool. Good. Yeah, it's good. Glad we're on the same page, to be fair. Always a good sign. So that was how I increased the site speed. And then this is how, or like my 5-step process usually for increasing or optimizing display ads. Like when I mentioned at the start, like to come up with your investment kind of thesis or your investment plan, my investment plan, a big part of it consists of buying websites that I feel are under monetized from a display ad perspective. And that could be they're on AdSense and I want to move it to Ezoic or Mediavine, or they're on Ezoic and I think I can move it to Mediavine, for example. Or they don't have a ton of placeholders, or they don't have a sidebar, so there's no sticky display advert in there. Like whenever I'm looking at a site and doing due diligence on a site to buy, I'm looking for these things to see what quick wins I can implement. And with this one, there was basically 5 things which I could do. So the first one was increase the font size. And lots of people ask, like, all right, you increase the font size, how does that make you more money with display ads? And does 2 things. One is it increases the kind of the number of placeholders essentially on the website. So the longer people have to keep scrolling on the website, the more placeholders you can have and show on the website. And the more placeholders essentially means the more eyeballs on adverts, which means more revenue. The other thing as well is, especially if the site is getting a lot of desktop traffic, because desktop pays really well, and also with desktop traffic, you can have the sticky sidebar placeholder, ad placeholder. That placeholder typically refreshes, or that advert typically refreshes every 10 to 15 seconds. So the longer you can keep people on the website, the more times that can refresh and the more you can get paid. With increased font size, it just keeps people on the page longer. They have to keep scrolling more. They have to keep scrolling. And I guess I should preface all of this by saying all of these things separately probably won't have a big impact, but adding them all together, they all add like a small incremental increase in revenue, and they all come out to like typically a decent size increase, but on their own, they kind of won't have a massive impact. So that's the first one. The second one is to add more images to break up the page. And again, this is every time you add an image or you add a new bit of text to the page, you generate another place where an ad placeholder could be. So if you've got lots of paragraphs, if you've got one wall of text, usually most ad networks can't place display ads in between that wall of text. You've got to break it up. And every time you break it up, it creates a space for an advert to go in. And it's the same with images. So again, when I'm looking at websites, I'm looking at sites which don't have images or only have maybe one image on their top performing pieces of content. And if I come in and I can add another 4, 5, 6 images to that page, I mean, make it look relevant. I'm not just adding them for the sake of it, but make it look relevant throughout there. I'm creating the opportunity to add more placeholders for the ad network and ultimately add more, make more revenue from there. And the same thing with FAQs. So I always add FAQs to each piece of the top performing content. And to do that, I go into Google Analytics. I look at all the best performing pages by traffic, and I look at the top 20% that are driving 80% of the traffic. It's almost always 80-20. And those top 20 URLs, I'll go and I'll check, do they have an FAQ section? And if they don't, I'll go and add an FAQ section. And that's really simple. Like, I just go to Google, I'll type in the primary keyword for each of those articles. I'll pull out 4 or 5 people also asked questions that are related to it, and I'll just add a couple of sentences as answers to the FAQs. And again, that does 2 things. One is it gives you an instant boost on your top 20% of your traffic. Like, instantly you've updated that, so it's fresh in Google's eyes. You're making it better than competitors typically, and not all competitors have like this FAQ section there, and you can make your content a little bit better. And again, similar to when you add images, you add in more page breaks, you add in the opportunity for the ad network to add in more placeholders. And then increase site speed, kind of just covered that one off. And then the last one is switch the monetization to a different ad network. So in this case, switch the monetization over to Ezoic and increase the placeholders. I go wild with the placeholders on Ezoic. I literally just let the AI add them as many places as they can. I use the plugin and I set it to automatically generate. And what I think people get a bit scared when they do that, because I think my website is going to be full of adverts. What you're just doing is giving the AI the opportunity to test lots of different placeholders. So I just give it as many as I can. Like, I just say go wild and add as many as you can. that usually will lead to an increase in revenue, because people, when they might have set the site up, they would have just said, oh, I only want to show one advert here and one advert here, and that might not be optimal for display ads. And that's the 5-step process for display ads. Anything to add there, Craig? Any tips of wisdom? Oh, you're on mute, Craig.
I fucking should have known that. So I'm going to be completely honest. In terms of the ads optimizing for display ads, I've always been of the thought process that I hate display ads. I don't have them on any of my own websites. Now, I know people who monetize through that, and I get why you've switched from Amazon affiliate to display ads, because obviously you can have informational websites, you can have your ads and make fucking money without being smashed for only having commercial content. So all of that makes sense, but the way I do affiliate is slightly different from in the past. I've bought and sold Amazon affiliate websites, and I hated display ads because they slowed the website down. And I just thought they made them look really shitty. That's the honest answer of it. And I still believe that to be the case. I'm not a fan of ads. Now, I get it from a monetization point of view. I get everything, but I do think it makes the website look really like buckshy. It's just there to churn out money. So I'm not a fan of ads. I'm not going to lie. I've never used the Zoe. But I have, I do a lot of consultation, I do a lot of stuff with people, and I know people that have actually doubled their revenue by just adding ads. So I'm wrong in this. I'm just one of those guys that is just not prepared to fucking embrace it. No, but because I do slightly different type of affiliate, I can promote sandwich, I can promote whoever, and I don't have to use display ads in any of that. I've always kind of avoided it, so that's the honest answer. So
it's good. I mean, like we said at the start, there's totally different ways to make money in this space, and I know Mark in his last episode showed that his Zoic ad index revenue, or ad revenue index, which basically showed the amount that advertisers are willing to pay, has gone up over the last 5 years. It kind of looks like the stock market; it's always going up and to the right. And I think maybe 5 years ago, I would have probably agreed with you, Craig, in that it's really hard to make a website viable just through display ads. But I think these days it's totally viable just to build a whole business model around it. I know people like John Dykstra has built a 6-figure income from every month, a monthly 6-figure income just from display ads. Like, he doesn't do any affiliate stuff. It's just display ads. And you've got Anne from Yes, who also, she's closing in on $200,000 a month just from display ads. I mean, there's a ton of work and content that's gone in behind that, but that's their primary business model, is display ads. So yeah, it's interesting how like the different views of you make money one way and you can make money tons of different ways with these sites once you've got the audience.
But dude, I've got a friend here, Mario Zek, right, who's actually listening in, and Mario, I spoke to, and don't worry, Mario, I'm not going to give your website or your niche away. But Mario came to me a few weeks ago. He's like, dude, can I talk to you about my website? So showed me his website and all that kind of stuff. And it is all display ads. It's basically a website that has a fuck ton. And he thought that he was telling me that this website was on the decline. Now, this website's still doing close to 1 million hits a month. I'm like, show me one of your websites that's going well then, fucking Mario. But anyway, but to the point I'm trying to make here is Mario used Pinterest in his niche to drive a lot of the traffic to the website, which then enabled him to make revenue, and he's just laughing there. The thing. So, like you say, display ads in my old school way of thinking of it is completely fucking wrong, because Mario used Pinterest to get traffic onto the fucking website and makes a fuck ton. Now, Mario's like, I've not touched the website for 2 years, Craig. It's doing really shit. And we're like, Mario, you're close to 1 million hits a month. Like, what the fuck is this? And Yeah, and I said to him, my first words were I said, Mario, dude, I know someone will take this website off your hands for $1,000. Like, it's not doing too well, but he just laughed at me. But so
Mario, if you want to slip into my private deal flow, then feel
no, he's on mine. He's on mine. But so I think I've been probably ignorant in certain ways to add. So anyone who's listening, I want to get that point across. There are many people out there who, like Mario, are doing, Pinterest to the website and getting a fuck ton of traffic and a fuck ton of money on those ads. So do not listen to my view on this one. I'm happy to hold my hands up and say, I'm not saying I'm wrong, but
there's just different ways, isn't it, to monetize? Like there's different ways to build and buy. There's different ways to monetize, and that's the good thing about this space is usually once you've got traffic, you can monetize it in tons of different ways. Display ads is one, affiliates is the other. Like affiliates, like you've got courses, you've got marketplaces, you've got digital products. You've got CPA networks. You've got tons of different ways. The hard part, I think, and the bit that we all agree is the bit to do is getting the traffic in the first place. Yeah. It's almost a luxury. Once you've got the traffic, like, how can I make more money from it? And I think display ads is just one of the avenues.
Yeah. No, it makes sense now, given the problems we've had with the intent of the content and all this kind of garbage. So it makes perfect sense.
Cool. All right. I'll just quickly, we're kind of running out of time quite rapidly here. So I'll just whiz through a little bit about the content strategy and some of the results. So I've started adding new content to the website. So when I buy a site, as well as doing like these technical fixes, like increasing the site speed and optimizing with display ads, I was going to try and grow the traffic. So far I've spent around $7,700 through the Niche Website Builder team. I've added 55 new blog posts, about 110,000 words. I've used our Tomb Raiding keyword research methodology, and I mean, it's something Mark touched upon. It's just a systemized way that we've come up with of doing keyword research. And I mean, I won't dwell on it now, Craig, because we'll probably do a whole session on it where we'll just dive in and show you exactly what Tomb Raiding keyword research is and how we do it and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, I used Tomb Raiding SEO, Tomb Raiding keyword research on this, and I basically created a list of titles from weaker competitors, so sites that have a weaker link profile. And then I made a plan on how I would make my content slightly better. And I mean by slightly better, I just mean by looking at what they cover, covering the same topics, and then adding like an FAQ section at the end, kind of what I mentioned about updating previous content. And then I only started publishing content in July, and I've since added 6 posts in July, 32 in August, 11 September. There's more than that in October now, but there'll be about 15 in the month of October as well. So I started aggressively adding more content to the website, and I will continue to do this now until sometime next year. And these are the results. So this is back when I bought it in March, and since then traffic has doubled in the 7 months since I bought it. It was getting just over 50,000. It's getting, well, some of these months are just over 100,000. So it's almost more than doubled basically in the 7 months since I've owned it. And you can see that a lot of that came in the first couple of months, and I think that's due to increasing site speed and just doing those general technical fixes. And now I hope it'll continue to grow with the new content that I'm adding. So the results are there. That's kind of the way it's worked out. And I guess the reason why I'm not selling it, the main reason why I'm not selling it is the niche is seasonal. Like I expect from December through until March now to dip in traffic. And then like the high point for this website is April and May. And then it starts to drop off a little bit all the way through till December. And then like you've got another April, May peak in terms of seasonality. I think I've got that here actually. You can kind of see this is the Google Trends for the primary search term. Like you can see it peaks for 2 months of the year and then it drops off, and that's kind of where we are now. So in terms of traffic, the traffic has more than doubled as we've gone down in terms of seasonality. So I'm really hopeful that come next year, come those peak months, like we'll be in a really good position. And when it comes time to selling websites, it's always easier to sell a website that's on and up. And if I can sell it going into that peak season, you'll tend to get way more people interested in, and a better multiple if it's on the up when you start to sell it. So current valuation, this is the revenue post-purchase. So I showed the monthly revenue before I bought it. It's now averaging $3,300 a month, and if we use the same 34x multiple, it's now worth $115,000, which is basically a 75% return on my money so far in 7 months. I bought it for 71. I spent 7,700 on content. It's generated 17,000 in display ad revenue, and the asset value is 115. And I basically made a 7.6k profit per month for those 7 months. With really, because I've outsourced the content to our team, really I've only spent about a week or 2 weeks on this project. So so far this has been a really good buy, improve, and hopefully exit, flip, and I'm hoping I can share some of those details with you as I flip it next year then, Craig.
Yeah, no, I think it's always interesting to see where you eventually get to, and I think showing those figures at the end clearly show progression, from your to £1,500 a month and stuff, and that's all we ever want to see. I've got a couple of questions which I'll ask on behalf of the audience. Now, you mentioned a couple of times like your aggressive content strategy, and I think there was 32 posts added in August. Do you ever backdate that shit or anything like that? Or do you just slamming them out? You don't care, just out of curiosity.
What do you say backdated? What do you mean by that?
So if I've got 32 posts to put up, I might go onto WordPress and I might say, right,
schedule it.
Yeah, schedule it, and I'll maybe move some of the dates around, just so that it doesn't appear that they all went live in the 1 month, if you get what I mean, because you're adding 32 in the 1 month, which some people, I mean, I'm crazy. I just dot them around so that it looks as if I'm consistent. Whether there's an SEO benefit to that or not, I don't think there is. But people always say, how much content is too much content in the 1 month? Is what I'm trying to ask. So do you just, if you've got 32 articles, you just slam them up as and when they come in? Is that how it's working? There's no thought process, no funny business in the background?
No. And I think I can answer. We can pretty much definitively answer whether just publishing content as it comes is a good thing. I'm really excited. This is another thing that we're going to talk about in the coming months. But sharing our latest niche website builders case study. So this is like my own personal one, but as a business, I think 11 weeks ago we launched a website with very lofty goals. It's 4 million words of content. We started on an age domain of a DR27. We want to build it to a DR60, and we want to flip the website for $1 million in 24 months. We launched our site 11 weeks ago. We've now published just under 800 pieces of content in 2.5 months, and the site's taken off like a rocket ship, to be fair. So no, there's no thought process going behind it, and we've done it so many times. We're a big believer in just getting the content out there. It takes time for Google to find it. It takes time for Google to crawl it and index it, and then it takes time for it to find its natural place. I don't see any benefit in saying, well, if the content's ready now, I'll schedule to publish it in 2-3 weeks time, just so it looks like it's more spread out. I guess on that point, I'm continually publishing content as well. It's not like I've just dumped 30 posts and then I'm not publishing anything for 6 months. I'm still publishing every month.
Yeah. No, cool. I'm glad you were able to clear that up. We've got a quick question here. When it comes to publishing content on regenerating expired domains, do you use a VA? Obviously, you use your team. Do you guys use any kind of AI content generation or AI-assisted content at all in there to get the kind of volume, or is it pure, done manually?
It's all done manually. So we've done some internal tests at the start of this year on our own websites, trying to do the AI-assisted kind of content. And I mean, we tested it internally for about 3 months. We give it a really good test. And what we found was we couldn't make it any better than just we couldn't make it work the same way we could with just pure non-AI assisted content. And I mean, I wish we could have made it work, because I guess we could have cut our cost base by quite a bit. But no, our answer is that at least now, anyway, we're not saying in the future we might not go back to it and test it some more, but all this at the moment is just all native English speakers. We employ around 60-ish, maybe a bit more full-time content writers that we've trained to write the way we want and trained in our SOPs. They're all based here in the UK. They're all full-time employees. They're not freelancers, or we don't outsource it anywhere. And that way we've got a real handle over like the control and the quality that they publish. I mean, if you're trying to scale up without a team, I think it's really hard. Like, if you need to answer, hey Joe, to answer Dirk's question, if you haven't got a team behind you and you don't have the budget, it's really hard to scale up good quality content on these age domains. So yeah.
No, I think that's interesting. And I also find the same thing. I've not found a way to use AI assisted content as much as I'd love to, because, like I say, we're all lazy bastards and want things done at a cheaper price, but it's not quite there yet. I would agree.
I wish I had, though. I don't know if you saw recently, Jasper, like the AI tool.
Yeah,
those guys, they're not even 2 years old. They're 2 years old in the end of this year, and they just raised 125 million on a $1.5 billion valuation, like in 2 years.
It's insane.
Why didn't we do that instead of creating a content agency? What?
That would be nice. It would be nice. Good luck to them. But we are sadly out of time, guys. Obviously, Adam took up all the time with his presentation and knowledge. But I think that was probably more insightful than just general bullshit questions coming in. So it was nice to see another case study. Guys, if you do have questions, leave them in the comments under the video. I will try and come in and answer them, and maybe Adam would be kind enough to pop in and answer any questions you've got. But I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot more sessions over the course of the year, and we will have proper Q&A sessions. Obviously, we're trying to promote what these guys know and promote that they know what they're doing, and how they do it and all that kind of stuff. But so there'll be plenty more sessions where we can just literally pick the brains out of Mark, Adam, and anyone else who's got the guts to put their face up here. So
I guess just about like no questions are out of bounds. Like, we've built our business on giving away 100% of our knowledge. We don't even hold anything back. Loads of people ask us how we built the business, and it's just because like we give away, or we tell people everything we do. We launch a new service, and we'll do a podcast, and we'll talk to you about exactly everything we do step by step, knowing that small few people will probably go and implement the knowledge, but lots of people are time poor or don't have the inclination to want to do it. So yeah, just reiterating what you say, Greg, just over the course of the next 12 months, just smash us with questions, ask us everything, drain us of our knowledge, basically.
That's exactly what we're here for, and we will be draining you of everything and anything, guys. So every Tuesday, 3 p.m. But the link is below to Niche Website Builders. Got a whole bunch of services, including full done for you niche website builds. If you really want to just say, guys, here's some money, go away and fucking do it all for me, which is a nice position to be in if you've got the ability to do that. So that is what the guys can do for you, but they can do a whole bunch of stuff in between. So the link is below. But Adam, thank you for taking the time to jump on. And yeah, guys, if you get any questions, put them below in the comments, and we will try and answer them on YouTube for you guys.
Yes, thanks for having me on, Craig. Been a pleasure.
No worries, Adam. Take it easy.
Cheers, man.